Ecco, disuguaglianza e dunque la disuguaglianza produce nei paesi occidentali quello che abbiamo detto adesso col professor Treu, che è la disuguaglianza sociale e la povertà relativa. In alcuni paesi del mondo invece produce la povertà assoluta. Anche di questo tema si occupa l'IFAD, che è l'International Fund for Agricultural Development, che è un organismo delle Nazioni Unite che lavora proprio per eliminare la povertà e la fame nelle aree rurali dei paesi in via di sviluppo. Kanayo Nwanze, tra l'altro, è nigeriano, quindi ha anche un'esperienza personale importante su questo tema, ha molto lavorato anche per il suo paese. Allora, la domanda che io vorrei fare a Mr. Nwanze è diciamo, di provare a parlare di sostenibilità a livello globale, quindi aprirci un momento a problemi anche più ampi e più vasti e capire come, per esempio, questa grande crisi possa impattare sul lavoro che fanno le Nazioni Unite su questo tema, cioè in un momento in cui anche i paesi occidentali sono travolti da grandi problemi e devono ripensare i loro modelli di sviluppo. Questo cosa vuol dire? Una battuta d'arresto nella lotta alla povertà e alla fame a livello globale? O invece può essere un momento per ripensare tutti assieme nuove forme di sviluppo?
Thank you very much. First of all, allow me to thank UniCredit and the University, Louis University, inviting IFAD to participate in the East Forum 2010. We think this is an honor to us, and we do appreciate our participation. Your question is very pertinent. From our perspective at IFAD, when we think about the two most important challenges that we face in the world, we look at one of them is how are we going to feed the rapidly growing world population? And how are we going to do this successfully within the context of climate change so that feeding the world is sustainable and at the same time we're able to mitigate or to adapt to the impact of climate change. This in no way undermines the current financial fiscal problem that we face. On the contrary, but if I may say, the current financial, fiscal, economic crisis is a simple proof of a failure of an economic model. Buy now and pay tomorrow, irrespective of whether you have the money or not. So when we talk about shaping a sustainable future, feeding the world and climate change must be at the top of the agenda. It is actually a misconception when people say that feeding the world conflicts with climate change, because to produce more food, you're going to affect the climate. On the contrary, we believe that we can produce food sustainably through conservation agriculture and be able to help to mitigate climate change. The fact here is, let's go back a few years to the Green Revolution. It's described as having been very successful. It helped to mitigate hunger and poverty amongst millions of people in Asia and Latin America. But at what cost? High use of fertilizers, of chemical fertilizers, of insecticides, and excessive use of irrigation water. And today, the Green Revolution, in spite of the fact that it lifted millions of people out of poverty, is considered as having done a lot of harm to our environment. And so that model was not sustainable. But we do believe that we can use resources, we can use fertilizers, we can use irrigation water, we can use chemical insecticides or biopesticides to increase production without harming the environment. The croplands are not going to expand. Water tables are not going to rise up. They're going to continue to diminish. And so what it calls for is that we have to look at a more sustainable approach to agriculture. The Green Revolution bypassed Africa and parts of Asia. But we know that the majority of the people in those countries of the developing world are farmers. And they feed 80% of their populations, and they produce 80% of all the food that is consumed in the developing world. And they do so, in a sense, sustainably. From our experience and the experiences of others, we know that investment in agriculture and rural development in developing countries is 2 to 4 times more productive than investments in other sectors. Smallholder farmers can produce food sustainably, but it means investing also in rural development. I give you a scenario. China in the 70s was not able to feed its population. Brazil 35 years ago was a net importer of food. Vietnam 25 years ago was a net importer of rice. Today, Vietnam is the second largest exporter of rice. 70% of the rice farmers are smallholder farmers. Brazil today is an emerging economy. China, what do you call China? But this was done through massive investment in rural development and massive investment in agriculture. When you invest in the rural economies and it becomes vibrant and sustainable, it stems migration to Europe. Simple. You have to look at the root causes of migration, poverty and hunger in developing countries. It's not an investment in large infrastructures that is going to help those countries to stem migration, because they migrate from the rural areas when the rural areas are not sustainable to the cities get crowded, and they migrate out to Europe and to the Americas. So governments, national governments of the developing countries, first and foremost must get their acts together. When we are able to invest in agriculture, in food security, which is Millennium Development Goal number 1, reducing the number of the poor by 2015, in 5 years' time, by half. If people eat the right food in the right quantity, it improves their health. So you have better nutrition, better health, better school attendance, and also better employment. MDG 2, 3, 4, and 5. Just by solving MDG 1, it becomes more sustainable. But the question is, how are we going to feed the world? Yes, we might need 2 planets, 3 planets. By 2030, the world population is going to go from what it is today, 6.8 to 7.5. By 2050, in 40 years, it's going to be 9 billion. World food production must increase by 50%. In Africa, it must double. In other developing countries, by 70%. Where is the land? Where is the technology? Is biotechnology going to solve food problems? Is it sustainable like the Green Revolution? The answer is no. Our approach to agriculture at IFAD is to support low-input, sustainable agriculture. It makes the most efficient use of inputs. It increases yields. It provides income for rural populations. It helps you to achieve the Millennium Development Goals. It helps you to stem migration to the West. And it brings about political stability. Sustainability is in terms of stability of political systems, of social systems, of families.